And also, there was a new trailer that dropped, isn't there, Andre?
There is indeed, as longtime watchers will know, Tom and myself are huge fans of Hellraiser. And for the past, let's see, almost 20 years, well, 15 years at the very least, the production company has been trying to remake Hellraiser, giving it like this big budget reboot in theaters for wide audiences. And they've been trying and failing. It has gone through God knows how many iterations. But now, finally, they landed on director David Bruckner, and Bruckner made it happen. It got a script, it got a brand new visual take. It was filmed in Serbia last year. It will be released in little more than 2 weeks. And today we got our first look at actual footage with the release of the trailer for the Hulu exclusive movie. So no theaters for any of us.
That's right. And it's called Hellraiser. So it is technically what you would consider a reboot or reset or whatever at this point. Though you said that the director had kind of hinted that there may be a connection to this in the other films.
Exactly, because the obvious answer here is that this is a complete and total remake, a different take on the original novel that started it all, or novella rather, The Hellbound Heart. There are some who think that this is more true to the original novella than the original movie. That, of course, is utter bullcrap. This is a very, very different take. But the director, he made some very vague comments hinting that this might not be a complete remake, but rather a continuation, sharing continuity with the other movies in the franchise. What do you all gentlemen think about that claim? Could there be something to it after having seen the trailer?
Well, let's first let's address the question, and then we'll get to the trailer. 70s. Are you a fan of Hellraiser? And if so, do you think this does it excite you to think that this might attach to the other film?
Well, I'm certainly a fan of the original movie. I haven't seen all of the sequels, and I think there's been 9 movies in total.
Something like that, I think.
Yeah. And I'm certainly not as big a fan of the source
10,
material.
Yeah.
10, all right, the source material. Not as big a fan of the source material as you guys are. So when I looked at the trailer, I thought it looked quite good, but the term that's being used by the director is reimagining and bringing it up to date. So we all know what that could mean, that things may not be quite how we would want them if we were in the Hellraiser fandom. But, as I say, I'm not the hugest fan as you guys, not as big a fan as you guys are, so it could turn out to be quite good in my opinion. I'd have to see more. And I think it's a shame it's not going to be a theatrical release, though. That's all I can say.
Interesting. Nick, are you a fan of Hellraiser? And same question.
I absolutely am. I actually, as far as the horror stuff goes, I definitely lean more towards the supernatural per se. I'm not really wild on like the slashers. I mean, obviously the first Halloween is exceptional, but the supernatural stuff is more of my shtick. And I watch this trailer, even though like I had heard the stuff about the reimagining, and obviously for a guy like me, that's always a red flag. But this trailer didn't really look much like a red flag. I actually am like, this seems like it could be like Hellraiser that I knew. Now the sequels for me are a bit hit or miss. I don't really hate any of them, unlike some of the Friday 13th, but they're just kind of like, and there's ones that are fairly good. So I'm curious. I'm actually gonna check it out right away. It doesn't look bad. It really doesn't, and it doesn't feel like a reboot, whatever the word we want to use, but it does just feel like an extension of the story.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, my first response to the as far as like if it's attached to the other films, I hope to God it's not like some Candyman thing where they like shoved him in there at the last minute to just try to say, hey, Tony Todd's in here. And like have Doug Bradley show up or some shit just to kind of mess around with it.
I think we would have known, probably.
Maybe.
I'm inclined to believe that that was just something that Bruckner said that we can put firmly into the lie category. I think that this is a complete and total remake, as in starts a new continuity. However, I can see one way where this actually is a continuation and shares a story with the others. Would you like to hear how that could be?
Yes, please, sir.
Yeah.
First, let me introduce Nick real quick. Hey, Nick of Echo Base. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, fellas? Doing good. Just
Hey, Nick.
was sitting here doing some work
Yeah.
and saw you guys were live, so I was listening while I was working, and now I'm gonna sit in here and hang out while I'm working.
Well, glad to have you here. And we're about to hear from Andre how he thinks this might this new Hellraiser might be attached to the originals. I don't know if you're a fan or not, but
Yeah, I like Hellraiser. One of my good buddies is actually Clive Barker's personal assistant, and he actually did the artwork for their album. I was actually going to try to see about maybe trying to get Clive Barker on a stream at some point in time. And
that'd be
talk
crazy
about
if
the
you could.
Hellraiser.
I've heard he's in a bit of poor health, but that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I have no clue if I'll be able to work it out or not. But I was actually gonna hit him up this week and see if he could maybe try to line something up for us.
Oh, wild! So Andre, how do you think this might be attached then to the other Hellraiser films?
Well, first and foremost, I don't think it is. But let's just assume for a moment that Bruckner didn't lie, and it actually is. If we look at all of the other movies, there's a way this can happen. The Cenobites obviously look very, very different, and so does the box. But in Hellraiser Bloodline, we learn that Hell has kind of like changed style over the years. When the Angelique demon, when she looked at Pinhead, who she hasn't seen because she's been on Earth for centuries, she was like looking at him with like shock, like, what the hell is this? Why are we dressed like that? Whereas he's like, yeah, we've changed. We this is how we do right now, and you're gonna join that and become like us. And so she becomes like that. But it only goes to show that the fashion in Hell changed. It happened before, it can happen again. That might explain the new look of the Cenobites. Finally, if we then go and look into the most recent movie, Hellraiser Judgment, how does it end? Well, it ends with Pinhead being expelled from Hell, with the real human behind Pinhead being basically evicted. And what we learn from the comics is that when that happens, another recruit will be made the new Pinhead Cenobite. So this then could be what has happened if this is connected. This takes place after Hellraiser Judgment, in which the Doug Bradley-like Cenobite has been evicted. He's walking around Earth like homeless, and someone else has been made the new Pinhead Cenobite at the same time as Hell has basically shifted fashion again. And there are many different boxes and different ways into Hell. So that way, if they go with that, this can take place in the same continuity. Also supporting that is that this is a very different story from the one seen in the Hellbound Heart. None of the characters are the same. It's just a superficial similarity.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I forgot about him being evicted, but yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking too. Is I wonder if this is just like a, like you said, like an evolution of the Cenobites, and at the same time, this is just a whole new story. And it looks like they're exploring the box a little bit more too.
And one thing that is exactly the same that hasn't changed is Leviathan, the god of the Cenobites. We only saw like a glimpse of it, but that from that glimpse appears to be exactly the same as we saw in Hellbound, Hellraiser 2.
Right.
Yeah, well, Bruckner did say, he did use the word evolved, a loyal yet evolved reimagining. So speaking about what you were saying, Andre, the word evolved, you could be right.
I gotta say, I mean, I guess to kick off.
This is just pure speculation.
Yeah.
But I know my Hellraiser mythology pretty well.
Yeah,
And
you
when
do.
he says it's a continuation, again, this is how you would do that.
Well, let's take a look at this trailer real quick. We'll pause it in and out here, and then we'll give our actual reaction to it.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It's really nice.
You can hold it.
That's a different version of the
What
box
is
than
it?
we've ever seen before. Clearly.
My first thought, which is probably an unfair one, was this is Dan Brown meets Hellraiser. But, with the mystery box, the puzzle box. But, very Dan Brown.
See, because I remember it was either you or maybe it was Mr. H or somebody like that saying a while back something about how they were going to get more into the Lament configurations into this movie.
Yeah.
So,
And that is certainly what we're seeing here.
yeah. Shit, the whole
What is
house
it?
almost looks like it's covered in them.
It's a puzzle.
And it's almost finished. Keep going. So if I solve it, do I get a prize?
I do.
What's your deal? It has 6 sides, 6 configurations.
See, yeah, here they're getting more into the different configurations.
And that's just as Mr. H said. So his source was spot on here.
Yeah. And the boxes never really looked the same. So I'm not too worried about the box looking a little different than it ever has.
They're
Like
different boxes.
every
That's the
time.
whole
Yeah,
point.
it seems like, yeah.
It's not this.
It's similar enough that you recognize what it's supposed to be, but different enough that it's just a variation of what we know. So it's not too different.
Well, and as Andre was just saying, it's a different one every time, and that makes sense too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not in every single movie.
I think the
but
first two,
very
it's the same one, but yeah.
I think that at least the first two, and also in the third and the fourth movie is also by implication the same box. But since then, it's anyone's guess. We know there are more boxes. This we see in Hellbound, but also if you go into the expanded mythology, the boxes are just one of many ways of getting into this version of hell. All of them have to do with solving a puzzle, but there are many different possible lament configurations that will get you there. So this could simply be a more evolved box, maybe something that Le Marchand made later in his life. Maybe it wasn't even him. Maybe it was one of his apprentices that made this.
Yeah, and then CW Trixie brings up Hellraiser in space. Yeah, I know, it's funny. What's hilarious, though, is of all the Ghost to Space movies, that one's probably the best, to be honest with you.
I actually
also, I
never
think
saw
that-
that one.
Yeah. The past segment of it is actually really, really good.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
future of it, not so much. But I think that the future segment, you just have to consider one possible future.
It is kind of cool when you get to the end and you realize that the whole ship is one big box, so it's kind of cool, but yeah.
Which only goes to show there are more boxes.
Yeah. And then was somebody else going to say something there besides Nick?
There are a multiverse of boxes.
Pretty much. Let's.
I mean, up to this point, the trailer looks good. I mean, as I say, I'm not the
it
biggest.
feels like Hellraiser.
Yeah.
I mean, in that respect, I mean, I can't say it doesn't, and it doesn't look too cheap for being straight to Hulu.
Yeah, right. You would thought
It's a
it
good
would look cheaper. Actually, I'm gonna echo what 70 said. Like, it is kind of disappointing because it does look like a legitimate theatrical release type of movie.
It does.
Like, it actually looks like they actually spent some money. Like, do we know when this was made? Because I want to know, was this before obviously the merger and it was just held off until now, or is this something that they got up and running more recently?
I think Andre
production. It was filmed. It was filmed last summer. It was filmed exactly 1 year ago in Belgrade.
Okay.
Belgrade, Serbia.
Okay, cool.
Well, it does look very theatrical. I mean, it has a good look to it so far. I think the problems may be later with the Pinhead reveal, but yeah.
Right.
We can get to that because that's coming up here. Because we've seen pictures. Now we actually get to hear the voice.
It opens up and it cuts you. And then they come to collect.
See, that one looked more like the original there. Chatterer.
It's time. Greater delights await. We wish to see you proceed.
Yeah, there was the thing out the back. Yeah, that was Leviathan. Yeah.
I get a.
Feed it.
Did I go front?
Their blood.
I don't think I went front.
To see you proceed. Greater delights.
There it is. So I knew it was far in the back.
It's time. Greater delight.
There we go. Yeah, it looks just like it does in the second film.
You see, it's literally the exact same.
Yeah. But
it almost
Go
feels
ahead.
like I'm watching a Tool video.
I think it's a neat way, neat that they got Vincent Price to do the talk over the narration.
I'm really happy that you mentioned Tool, because the Tool videos are tremendously inspired by Hellraiser.
Yeah.
So if it reminds you of a Tool video, that only goes to show that they didn't stray too far away from the source.
This is Vincent Price. You're about to watch Hellraiser.
It just sounds like a little bit like him. Yeah.
Now let's talk about the voice real quick.
Falls across the land.
I didn't hate the voice, but want to be honest, I think it should have been a bit more feminine. I think it's a bit too male.
Maybe.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit disappointed in the voice. I get that it has to be like Gravely because she has the it has the.
Well, I was gonna say they're a they, so let's be real about that up front.
They has a box jammed into they's throat, so that's obviously going to affect the voice. But I will have to say that casting a they is genius for this particular role.
I mean, yeah, we're gonna get to the actual see her here, they, whatever them in a minute here. So let's bump back into the end of this trailer here. I'm gonna turn it down just a smidge. I don't know how loud it is for you guys.
Their blood, their pain.
There's another shot of
all for us. What is it you pray for?
So, I mean, oops. Oh, no. There you go. So there's our new Pinhead. And again, Andre, why don't you give us a little bit of background on the book version of Pinhead compared to what Doug Bradley's always was?
Exactly, because in the book, all of the Cenobites are they are so scarred and they are so altered from their original human form that they're virtually unrecognizable as male or female. You can't really tell, and the book is deliberately vague about it. You have like the character who encounters them, Frank Cotton. He's trying to figure out, are these men, are these women, are they both? And he can't tell. So they're supposed to be sexless and genderless. Only one of the four that we are presented with in the book is decidedly a female later on. If that by implication means that they were all female, or if the rest of them, including the Pinhead one, is female as well, it's anyone's guess. There's reason to think that the Pinhead one actually is female, because the voice in the book is described as that of an excited girl. So Doug Bradley was actually the one that deviated from the source material because he was very obviously a male with a booming voice and everything. The only thing that he had in common with the Pinhead Cenobite of the original book is actually the pins and the patterns. Everything else was different. That was made for him because they didn't have the technology to do the Cenobites exactly as they were described in the book at the time. So they had to make some compromise, and the black leather and everything came in. But if you look at how they were described in that original book, what we see right here is closer.
Look-wise, yeah, I'm going to say I like it, but I agree with you, like, from what I had remembered from the description in the book. And that's one thing I'm sure I can go back and find it when we first reacted to the casting. I'm sure it was on a Midnight's Edge After Dark or maybe even a Meet in the Morning show. I had said, if they show a good reason why you wanted somebody who is transsexual or whatever the proper terminology would be in this case to play this role, then you got to make it work. And one of those reasons would be that androgynousness in the voice, in the body, in the features. And I see it in the features and the body, but I'm not hearing it in the voice. In the voice, it's like just a step difference than Doug Bradley's version, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree. I'm not a fan of the voice. They could have gone more androgynous with that, and that would have been the
that's
right
what I was thinking
step.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would include Doug Bradley in any part of this.
Like, we don't know for sure, but we would assume, like Andre was saying, I think before we even started, that if he was, we probably would have heard it, heard about it.
Probably one way or the other. Probably would have heard one way or the other if he was involved, but and we have heard nothing to indicate that there's any kind of thing. But I actually hope that this is part 11. Probably it isn't. But if it is, it's going to be like I said. And then he could be the homeless person running around in the street somewhere. But yes, this is Jamie Clayton. As says. This is indeed. We're just talking about the possible continuity.
Yeah.
But again, just as a normie when it comes to Hellraiser, I actually think this looks good, and I am interested to see it. So
they actually do some explanation of the lore right in the trailer, which is kind of impressive. And it seems to be in line with the previous lore in that respect. So, I mean, there could be something to it. Yeah. I just hope it's not some cheap thing like they did with the Candyman. I never saw the film, but I heard about it. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't need to see that.
I don't think they will do this because I have to admit, and to go back and see earlier streams, I was super excited for this the moment I heard the director, David Bruckner. Bruckner is brilliant. I've seen one movie of his before, The Ritual, and if you haven't seen The Ritual, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It's about some British group of friends that go to basically to the Scandinavia for a camping trip and meet the local citizens, and a fun time is had by all. I can't recommend it.
Well, Snowdub says
The Ritual.
The Ritual.
Yes, The Ritual.
Hey, I'm kind of curious. You got my attention.
Andre recommends.
I think it's a
show or a movie.
I think you can see it on Netflix. It's a movie.
Yeah, it's a movie. It's on Netflix. I really recommend that one.
It is good, yeah.
And also, if you've seen VHS, like that horror anthology show,
haven't, but I know what it is. Yeah.
He's the one that directed the absolute segment of it. That segment was so good that it got a spin-off movie, which he sadly did not direct. So that spin-off movie is no good. But like David Bruckner is a really talented guy. So the moment they got him on board, that's when I knew that this remake is in the best shape it's ever been. And indeed, that's when it happened. So I'm really excited for this. And just to get ahead of myself here, I think this looks absolutely smashing. I can't wait for it.
When's this
pretty
drop?
Good praise. That's good praise.
October 7th it drops. And Snowdub is in the house, and Snow's a good friend of ours, and he's a big, huge horror fan too. And I respect his opinion here. He says Doug Bradley is to Pinhead as Robert Englund is to Freddy Krueger. I agree to a point. He says the bar has already been set. I will say this, Snow. I don't know if you've seen Hellraiser Judgment yet, but I'll tell you what. Paul Taylor does a pretty decent job in that film, and that movie You know, in some respects, it has a lot of Seven vibes to it. I won't disagree with that. But between Pinhead and what Gary Tunnicliffe was able to do with the Auditor, and just the kind of ideas that are in that film compared to the last few movies we got out of that series, especially like Revelations and shit like that. If you have not seen that one yet, Snow, I recommend giving it a shot.
Yeah. And also, I would say this. Again, if you just go by the original movie, I agree that Doug Bradley is absolutely fantastic as in Pinhead, but I'm a huge fan of the character, the mythology, everything. And by the expanded mythology, and I know that Nick, you're gonna dig this. If you would go into the Hellraiser extended universe, similar to like the what you have with Star Wars, the Doug Bradley Pinhead is not the first Pinhead. He's like the 7th, 8th in the line, minimum.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can get some covers here showing some of the previous ones, and like there's always a Cenobite like this. It's a merger between like a demon, just like Ghost Rider. Actually, there's like this spirit that has like this pins in the head that merges with the person, and that person changes. They only serve for so long before they get replaced. And the Doug Bradley Pinhead that we know is just the one that happens to be right now. There's been others before, and there will be others later. So see this as the next one.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
that's
not
how
that
you get
familiar
around
with
that.
the lore of Hellraiser, and I mean, I watched all these when I was a kid, so I mean, it's been forever since I've seen some of these.
Well, I rewatched a bunch of them more recently when we were doing all our interviews and stuff like that. And of course, I had seen them all when they initially had come out. But I mean, over the bunch, like I can recommend the first 3, or actually first 4. Really, if you get into the first 2, anyway, you might dig up to 4, and then like 7 and Judgment. Those are like the only other 2 I can recommend. Because Hellseeker is not too bad. And that was directed by what's his face.
No, you're thinking about Inferno. Inferno was really, really good, and that's the
Inferno
one
was
that was
Scott
directed by
Derrickson.
Scott Derrickson. Yes,
Scott Derrickson,
indeed.
yeah.
No, I'm also thinking of Hellseeker though too. That was pretty much it could be its own fucking movie.
Yeah,
Because
Hellseeker was directed by Rick Bota, who directed 6, 7, and 8.
It was directed by him, but then it was written. Was that the one that was written by Stan Winston? Stan Winston is who I was trying to think of. I think
That was number 7. Yes, they
Yes,
wrote the
Hellseeker.
early draft for. No, that was Deader.
That's Tedder.
Yeah,
I
that's
can't
number
keep them
7.
straight. I knew it was 7, but I couldn't remember the fucking name.
Once it gets above 9 movies, it's tough, Tom.
Yeah, after those, I'm like, after 4, I'm kind of like, which one's fucking which anymore?
So for people that
And it
haven't
doesn't
seen
help that a lot
Hellraiser,
of those were filmed at the same goddamn time or back to back or whatever it was too.
And in the private chat, Tom, if you want to bring it up, there we have Bronze Age Pinhead.
Sorry, you were about to say something, Nick. My bad.
Oh, I was just gonna say for people that haven't seen these Hellraiser movies in forever, do you think it's must go back and watch those before this series comes out?
Oh
Is
no,
this a series or a movie?
It's a movie.
Okay.
It's a movie series. This is a movie, yeah. I would imagine that this is a completely fresh reintroduction, and you don't have to have seen anything before. If you have, you'll get more out of it. But if you haven't, this is going to be a fresh introduction with no further experience needed. That I can guarantee.
I completely forgot that Justin Timberlake was in Hellseeker.
Oh, he was?
Yeah,
that's right. Oh shit. I have most of them. I know the Stan Winston written one is hard to get your hands on.
And anyway, what we have on screen there for a moment, that was again from the expanded universe. That was the Bronze Age iteration of Pinhead. Again, that wasn't the Doug Bradley Pinhead. That was very early. So again, the fashion had changed because the fashion in hell changes.
Yeah,
and Vogue magazine, I guess.
Yeah, we can sit here and talk Hellraiser all damn night, and I would love to actually, but.